I almost missed my flight. You won't believe what happened next. The blaring of my phone ripped me from sleep at 6:17 a.m. My flight was at 8:00. Frantic, I bolted upright, a cold sweat slicking my skin. Sarah stirred beside me, groaning, "Elias, what's wrong?" The alarm didn't go off. My flight, I scrambled out of bed, tripping over a discarded shoe. The digital clock mocked me with its bright red numbers. JFK, London, 8:00 a.m. Important conference. My boss would have my hide if I missed it. Damn it, I barked, pulling on the first clothes I could find. Sarah, ever the calm one, sat up and rubbed her eyes. "Okay, breathe, you can still make it. Just hurry. Easy for her to say. She wasn't the one with a crippling fear of flying, a fear that had been dormant for years, ever since that transatlantic flight where we'd hit turbulence so bad I was convinced we were going down. The memory flared, the screams, the lurching, the sick feeling in my stomach. I shoved it down, focusing on the immediate crisis. A quick shower, skipped breakfast, and a frantic cab ride later, we screeched to a halt outside Terminal 4. I practically threw money at the driver and wrestled my suitcase from the trunk. "Gate B23, I muttered, checking my boarding pass for the 10th time. B23. Inside, the airport was a chaotic swarm of bodies and noise. Announcements blared, children screamed, and the air hung thick with the smell of stale coffee and desperation. Sarah grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Come on, Elias. We'll get you there." Security was a nightmare. The line snaked back and forth, a slow-moving river of stressed-out travelers. Shoes off, laptop out, belt off, liquids in a plastic bag. Each step felt like an eternity. My heart hammered against my ribs. Finally through. I practically sprinted towards gate B23, Sarah struggling to keep up. "Almost there," she gasped. But as we approached the gate, a wave of panic washed over me. The screen above the desk flashed "Gate change C17. No, I whispered, my voice trembling. "This can't be happening." C17 was on the other side of the terminal. We had maybe 15 minutes before boarding closed. I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine. It was like the universe was actively trying to stop me. We navigated the throngs of people, weaving through families with strollers and businessmen on their phones. I kept bumping into people, muttering apologies that were lost in the din. My anxiety was a physical thing now, a tightening in my chest, a buzzing in my ears. Finally, we reached C17, breathless and sweating. I showed my boarding pass to the agent, my hand shaking so badly I almost dropped it. "You're just in time, sir," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. Final boarding call. I slumped into a nearby chair, trying to catch my breath. Sarah sat beside me, squeezing my hand. "See, you made it," she said, forcing a smile, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, terribly, irrevocably wrong. As I sat there, a man approached. He was old, maybe in his late 70s, with a kindly face and twinkling blue eyes. He wore a tweed jacket and carried a worn leather briefcase. He looked like someone's grandfather. "Harmless. Terrible rush, wasn't it?" he said, his voice surprisingly strong. I nodded, still trying to regain my composure. "Almost missed the flight." "Yes, well," he chuckled, "these things happen. Especially when one is traveling to London for such an important conference on," he paused, as if searching for the right word, "behavioral algorithms." My blood ran cold. How did he know that? I hadn't told anyone. "Excuse me," I said, my voice barely a whisper. He smiled, a disconcertingly knowing smile. "Just making conversation. My name is Abernathy, Mr. Abernathy." He extended a hand. I hesitated, then shook it. His grip was surprisingly firm. "Elias Thorne," I replied, my voice tight. "A pleasure, Mr. Thorne, a genuine pleasure. I understand you're working on that new predictive model. Quite cutting edge, I hear, but be careful. Some things are better left unpredicted." He winked, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I stared after him, my mind reeling. This was getting weirder and weirder. How did he know about the conference? How did he know about the predictive model? And what did he mean by better left unpredicted? "Elias, you okay?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Did you hear what he said?" "He just said hello, Elias. You're being paranoid," but I knew I wasn't. Something was definitely wrong. The boarding announcement crackled over the loudspeaker. I stood up, my legs feeling like lead. "I don't like this," I said to Sarah. "I don't like this at all. You're just stressed, honey. It'll be okay. Just focus on getting to London." I tried to smile, but it felt forced and unnatural. As I walked towards the gate, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap. The plane was packed. I found my seat 27B, a window seat near the back. I hate window seats. I feel trapped, suffocated. As I settled in, I scanned the other passengers. Families, business travelers, students, nothing out of the ordinary, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. The plane taxied down the runway, the engines roaring to life. My stomach churned. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the fear. Takeoff was smooth, but as we reached cruising altitude, the turbulence began. Not severe, but enough to make the plane shudder and rattle. The memory of that terrible flight years ago resurfaced, flooding my senses. The screams, the lurching, the feeling of helplessness. I gripped the armrests, my knuckles white. Sarah, who was sitting next to me, placed her hand on mine. "It's okay, Elias. It's just a little turbulence." But it wasn't just the turbulence. It was everything. The missed alarm. The gate change, Mr. Abernathy. It all felt connected, like pieces of a puzzle I couldn't quite solve. Then the lights flickered. Just for a moment, but long enough to catch my attention. I glanced around the cabin. No one else seemed to notice. A few minutes later, the PA system crackled to life. The captain's voice, usually calm and reassuring, sounded distorted and garbled. "Experiencing slight deviation course, please remain seated." The announcement cut off abruptly. I looked at Sarah, her face etched with concern. "Did you hear that?" I asked. "Hear what?" "I didn't hear anything. The announcement, it sounded wrong." "Elias, you're just imagining things," but I knew I wasn't. Over the next few hours, things got progressively stranger. The lights flickered more frequently. The PA announcements became more erratic, filled with static and disjointed phrases, and I kept getting the feeling that I was being watched. I started noticing inconsistencies in the behavior of the flight attendants. Their smiles seemed forced, their movements mechanical. They would glance at me, then quickly look away. At one point, I saw a passenger, a man in a business suit, suddenly freeze in his seat. His eyes widened, his mouth opened in a silent scream. Then just as suddenly, he snapped back to normal as if nothing had happened. I leaned over to Sarah. "Did you see that man?" "Elias, please, just try to relax." I started to feel like I was losing my mind. Was I hallucinating? Was I having a breakdown? Or was something truly sinister happening? I decided to go to the bathroom. I needed to splash some water on my face and try to regain some semblance of control. As I walked down the aisle, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Mr. Abernathy was sitting near the front of the plane, but that was impossible. I didn't see him bored. He saw me, smiled, and gave me a little wave. I froze. This couldn't be happening. I stumbled into the bathroom, locked the door, and leaned against the sink. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. I looked in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes wide with terror. I looked like a madman. I splashed water on my face, trying to calm down, but it was no use. The paranoia was overwhelming. I was trapped on a plane with a mysterious old man who knew too much about me, and I had no idea why. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit there and wait for whatever was going to happen. I took a deep breath and walked out of the bathroom. I marched towards the front of the plane, determined to confront Mr. Abernathy. As I approached his seat, I saw a flight attendant standing next to him. I grabbed her arm. "Excuse me," I said, my voice trembling. "Who is that man? How did he get on this plane?" The flight attendant looked at me with a blank expression. "I'm sorry, sir. I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. He's right there, Mr. Abernathy." The flight attendant glanced at the seat where Mr. Abernathy had been sitting. "It was empty, sir. There's no one sitting there." I stared at the empty seat, my mind reeling. This was insane. It had to be. "He was just there. I saw him, sir. You're disturbing the other passengers. Please return to your seat." I refused to move. "I want answers. I demand to know what's going on." My voice rose, attracting the attention of the other passengers. They stared at me, their faces a mixture of curiosity and annoyance. Suddenly, a man stepped forward. He was tall and muscular with a stern expression. He flashed a badge. "Sir," he said, "Agent Davies. What's the problem here?" I tried to explain what was happening about Mr. Abernathy, the flickering lights, the distorted announcements. But as I spoke, I realized how crazy I sounded. Agent Davies listened patiently, his expression unchanging. When I finished, he sighed. "Sir, I think you're suffering from a panic attack. Why don't we go to the back of the plane so we can talk in a more private manner?" "Panic attack? Was that it? Was I just losing my mind? I didn't know what to believe anymore. Agent Davies led me to an empty row of seats at the back of the plane. He sat down across from me. "Now, Mr. Thorne," he said, "tell me what's really going on." I hesitated. Could I trust him, or was he part of the conspiracy too? I decided to take a chance. I told him everything, about my fear of flying, about the missed alarm, about the gate change, about Mr. Abernathy, about the strange occurrences on the plane. Agent Davies listened intently, occasionally asking questions. When I finished, he leaned back in his seat and studied me for a long moment. "Mr. Thorne," he said, "I understand you're feeling stressed, but I have to be honest with you. Your behavior is raising some red flags." "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I mean that you're acting erratically. You're making accusations without any proof, and you seem to be paranoid. But I'm telling you the truth," I pleaded. "Something is happening, I know it." Agent Davies sighed. "Mr. Thorne, I'm going to have to ask you to remain calm for the rest of the flight, and when we land, I'm going to have to ask you to come with me for further questioning." My heart sank. This was a nightmare. The rest of the flight was a blur. I sat in my seat, staring out the window, trying to make sense of what was happening. The turbulence continued, the lights flickered, and the PA announcements remained garbled. I didn't see Mr. Abernathy again. As the plane began its descent, I felt a sense of dread washing over me. I was about to be interrogated by the authorities, and I had no idea what they were going to do to me. When the plane landed, Agent Davies escorted me off the plane and into a small office in the airport. Sarah was waiting there, her face pale with worry. "Elias, what's going on?" she cried, rushing to my side. "I don't know," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I just don't know." Agent Davies led me into the office and closed the door. He sat me down at a table and began to ask me questions. He asked about my background, my job, my travel plans. He asked about my mental health. He asked about Mr. Abernathy. I answered his questions as honestly as I could, but I could tell he didn't believe me. He thought I was crazy. After several hours of questioning, Agent Davies finally released me. "Mr. Thorne," he said, "I'm going to let you go for now, but I want you to know that we'll be keeping an eye on you." I walked out of the office, Sarah clinging to my arm. We walked through the airport, past the crowds of people, past the flashing lights, past the endless rows of shops. As we reached the exit, I saw him, Mr. Abernathy. He was standing in the shadows, watching us. He smiled, a knowing, sinister smile. I froze, my blood running cold. This was it. He was real. He was really there. I grabbed Sarah's hand and pulled her towards a taxi. We got in and I told the driver to take us to the nearest hotel. As we drove away, I looked back. Mr. Abernathy was still standing there, watching us. I sank back into my seat, my mind reeling. I was convinced that I was being followed, that I was being watched, that something terrible was about to happen. I looked at Sarah. Her eyes reflected the streetlights, full of doubt. Had I scared her? Was she starting to doubt my sanity too? Then I remembered something. A memory buried deep in my subconscious. A memory of my father lying on his deathbed. He had been a scientist, a brilliant but eccentric man. In his final days, he had become obsessed with conspiracy theories and the nature of reality. "Elias," he had whispered, his voice weak and raspy, "the world isn't what you think it is. There are forces at work that you can't even imagine. Be careful, son, be very careful." I had dismissed his words as the ramblings of a dying man, but now I wasn't so sure. I looked out the window of the taxi. The city lights blurred, the building seemed to shift and distort. Then I noticed something strange. The taxi driver. His face seemed glitchy, like a broken video game character. His eyes flickered. His mouth moved in unnatural ways. I stared at him, my heart pounding in my chest. "Stop the car," I screamed. Sarah gasped. The taxi driver didn't respond. "Stop the car," I screamed again, louder this time. The taxi driver's head turned, his eyes focusing on mine. They were empty, devoid of any emotion. He smiled. A wide, grotesque smile. I screamed. And then everything went black.